Right now, speaking of amazing, my buddy John Bayuk's on the line, the first-year head coach with the Struthers Wildcats. How you doing, Johnny? I am doing great. What's happening? You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. We got that little technical snafu out of the way. John, interesting. You've been with the Wildcats, I think, 7 years, and last three as the defensive coordinator. You're also an assistant at Camel. So you're taking the reins for the first time with the Struthers Wildcats. What do you think about the prospects of taking over a program and then having Dad alongside you for your first year?
Well, Struthers has a rich tradition of football. They had Pete Perone Sr., Gary Zetz, and after Coach Kuntz's stint, he really left a good foundation for me, and I'm excited. I mean, I've been waiting to be a head coach my entire life, and to be able to have my dad with me, it's just another exciting thing for me, and we're pumped. I mean, we had 50 to 60 kids in the weight room before all this craziness happened.
Oh, yeah.
It's an exciting time, and we're just trying to push through this social distancing for now and figure things out.
Absolutely. And, much like yourself, I had a father that was a coach, football coach for years, so I know what it's like. You, in fact, grew up on a football field. Football was something that was instilled from you from the time you were a little boy. In fact, I read a story where you brought a whistle home back in third grade. Tell me that story.
Yeah. So we had career day in third grade, and it's one of the few things I remember from elementary school. But we had to bring in props for career day. I brought a clipboard and a whistle, and I said I wanted to be my dad, a head football coach. So that was my career as a third grader. But yeah, it's always been. I was a ball boy for years, since 1994 until I was in eighth grade at Hubbard, and I just grew up around it. And every day I was at football practice, and if I wasn't at football practice because it was the off season, I was in the weight room as a 10-year-old, just watching the guys, watching the coaches. And it's just been something that I've been around my whole life, and I plan on continue being around it my whole life. So it's just something that, luckily, I had a great mentor in my dad to watch things the right way. And I was able to watch a coach take programs and transform them into successful football teams. And again, I'm just lucky that I got to see it done the right way.
Absolutely, and your situation is so unique. I love the father-son combination. And you said, I've been waiting to be a football coach my entire life, and finally you get that opportunity. And then you find Papa right beside you, and that's got to be a great feeling. But you're an inspirator, too. You're a motivator. You told your kids at one point you're a teacher. I believe you teach social studies out at Struthers, too, do you not?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. But you always tell your kids, and one of the mottos of one John Bayuk is, chase your dreams. And that's certainly something that you're applying in your own life in many facets, which we'll soon discover.
Yeah. I teach freshmen and sophomores, mostly a couple of juniors, but, I try to tell them I'm not here just to teach you about history. It's more important that you don't leave my classroom being a great historian, but a great person. And that's what I try to teach in my class. And one of those things was, don't let anyone tell you that, you can't chase your dream. If you want to do something when you get older, if you don't want to go to college, if you want to choose a different path, even football wise. I mean, I tell our football players the same thing. And if there's something you want to do, then you got to put your mind to it and chase it.
No doubt about it. And also, and I find this fascinating too, some people might be jealous of their father's legacy. Not the case with you. In fact, you were quoted as saying, I embrace my father's legacy. I have to follow in his footsteps. So he's a leader and a role model for you to look up to.
Yeah. I think if there's any type of challenge, that would be the biggest challenge of people saying, oh, you live in the spotlight of Jeff Bayuk. You're never going to be able to have your own legacy. And you know what? I hope to aspire someday to the things that he's done. He's been to where I'm trying to get. So I'm lucky to, like I said before, I'm lucky that, he is someone close to me that I can reach out to whenever I need anything. And I've done that the last 13 years I've been coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I'll call him on the way home after football games and say, man, I can't believe this happened. What do you think? You know what I mean? And
Yeah, right. Pick his brain.
It's yeah, and like I said in that interview, of I'm embracing what he's done and proud to be a Bayuk. You know what I mean? I'm not going to let his legacy alter what I want to do as a head coach.
John,
So,
I got to share this with you because I go back a different time, a different era, and Dad being a coach, and I grew up in McDonald, and he was very successful there. I remember walking around from the time I was a wee little boy, about yay high, and that's Coach's son. Oh, that's little Johnny. There's a feeling of, whether it's inherited or not, a feeling special. You know it's there. You know it's there, man, and it's hard to stay grounded because you walk around. Oh, that's Jeff Bayuk's son. That's Johnny. That's little Johnny. So you could relate to me, that feeling. I know the feeling, brother, and I grew up that way, same as you did, on a practice field. What's that like for you?
trust me, man. A lot of people knew me as Jeff Bayuk's son, not John. I don't even think people knew what my name was. But now that I've kind of got into the coordinating position and now I'm the head coach, it's amazing to me that I'm able to bring my dad with me. And my dad, I've been lucky enough to watch him coach all through his life, but he made sure that I watched people like Bill Boren, Dick Angle, Phil Anarella. Like he knew that was important. Like I've seen so many practices at Howland when Dick Angle was there. Just as many as I was there. That's my godfather. So
wow.
I've been lucky to, not just see Jeff Bayuk, but he has showed me so many different veteran coaches that I've learned a lot of things from. And I'm lucky that I've played for and coached with great coaches throughout my career. And one of those reasons is, my dad's staff that he brought to Campbell. I was lucky enough to coach with them. And then when I headed over to Struthers, another great staff that I got to coach with. So, like we talked about, just growing up around football my entire life and then being around watching great coaches has just been a great way to shape how I got shaped as a coach. All the people I've watched and listened to on the way.
Yeah, and you know what, John? I could even draw parallels with you there. My dad, in 1982, took over the Liberty football program. He was the first non-certified head football coach in the state of Ohio. Back then, you had to be a teacher. He got through the loopholes and was able to do it. And guess who was his quarterback coach on his very first staff? That was me. So, I mean, I know what it's like, too, brother, to be father, son along the sideline. And, and there were ups and downs that campaign. And I remember, just feeling so bad for him when things didn't go well. We went 4-6. We won, I think, 4 of our last 6 games. We started 0-4, but, things turned around. You played for your father at Hubbard High School, where he was one-time head coach, and then you went on to Westminster and became a graduate out there with a legendary program. But playing, too, for Dad, what did you learn as a difference to coaching with him?
One of the things that stuck with me, one of the quotes that he told me my senior year, he said, leadership is an action, not a title. And we only had 2 captains when I was a senior. And he would always instill that. And even if you weren't a captain, you're a captain. You can be one, And I saw him do that as a coach. Even though he was the head coach, he didn't micromanage. He let his staff be the leaders of their positions. And one of the things that had always stuck with me, I'm kind of getting away from high school, but when I was a ball boy, and in 2000 we went to the regional finals. Hubbard went to the regional finals, and we were practicing at Ravenna because that's where we were going to play that Saturday. And he looked at me. I think I was 9 or 10 years old, and he looked at me and said, "Now I expect you to act like you've been there before."
Oh, wow.
And just as a 9 or 10 year old, I didn't really understand what the hell that meant. But, now that once I got to high school, and we were a successful program, and we got to the playoffs. It clicked. And, that I still use that with my players. When you cross the goal line, act like you've been there before. We don't need a touchdown dance. So in all aspects of life, those are two things that he really taught me as a player. And it was tough. I mean, we had our moments when, we'd sit down at the dinner table and I'd say something about practice that pissed me off. And, he'd make a smart remark back. But it was a great experience. And at the time, I didn't realize how appreciative or how much I'm lucky that happened, that he was my head coach. So just looking back, I'm real lucky, and I'm happy it went down that way.
We're talking to first-year Struthers head football coach John Bayuk with us, and his father Jeff will follow up in the second half of the first hour segment. Kurt Kuntz leaves for an NFL opportunity with the Miami Dolphins to be their defensive backs coach. Were you surprised, and how did you end up getting the nod from Mr. Perrone and the school board out at Struthers? Obviously, that had to be a feather in your cap that they thought that much of you.
Yeah, it's really been a great experience at Struthers, not just coaching but teaching. I've been in the school system. This is going to be my 8th year. And I just have a really good rapport with the kids, not just the football players, just the entire school system. And I was lucky enough to, get a chance to interview in front of the committee and just laid out my plan, and not just for the football program, but for the community, for the school. And, although I'm a Hubbard graduate, I've been at Struthers so long that, I feel like it's my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just real lucky that they're giving me this opportunity, and I'm excited because, like I said, these kids are more than just football players to me. I'm with them more than their parents are during the school year.
And John, what's amazing to me, too, and I've got so many close friends out in Struthers, much like the West Side. We talk about Cheney. We talk about McDonald kids where I'm from. Fitch has that close-knit community, but so does Struthers. I mean, all the places, the Elmton, the Holly. I mean, all of the places, and I can't remember, it escapes me. We did there was a lady, she had be 90 years old, serving pierogies out there. But Tangier, I mean, there are so many legendary places. And when you drive through the community of Struthers and you realize what the old time feels about and how these people band together, and they lost football for a while too, but to have Struthers Wildcats football fever Friday night, man, there's nothing bigger in that community.
Oh, it's a very passionate community, and it's funny because as a coach, you obviously want your community involved, and you love that passion, and it's something that it's good for the kids, because that's going to create more involvement in our program. More kids are going to want to play. So that community passion is just playing into our favor as a coaching staff and as a school. So it's a great thing to have. And, we had that when my dad was at Hubbard when I played. And like I said, it just really reminds me of back when I played at Hubbard and that community support we have.
And, I was good friends with old man Al Campana, and he played the NFL with the Chicago Bears and was a former teammate of George Blanda, in fact. I'm good friends with his son, TJ, and I know the Campana family well and long associated with the Struthers program. Let's take a look back to 2019 and the Struthers football program and what you're inheriting. Division IV, Region 13. You guys were good enough to finish 6-4 during the course of the regular season campaign under Kurt Kuntz. You're the defensive coordinator, and you get to the playoffs and you play Poland again. But let's take you game by game through the season. You start off with an impressive 36-12 win over Lakeside, and then take it on the chin against New Philadelphia, 37-8. And it just seemed like in the beginning, at least in the first 4 games, because in Game 3 you beat West Branch handily, then you lost a tough one to Hubbard, your old school. That you guys were kind of trying to find an identity when you're sitting there 2-2 before you ripped off a 4-game winning streak.
Yeah, playing a team like New Philadelphia really, it's an advantage to an extent. You know, you want to play good competition to get you ready for the playoffs and things like that. But I mean, at one point they were the number one team in Division III, and at the beginning of the year, like you just said, you're trying to find an identity, and we kind of shuffled a couple kids around at quarterback, trying to figure out what we were going to do on offense. And I just think after that game, after that stumble, it took us a couple more games to find our identity. And once we got that past a couple games past that New Philly game, we finally got into our rhythm. And, you know, the Hubbard game has become almost a rivalry in my eyes. The last 4 years, I think our game has been determined by a touchdown or less.
Does it feel weird to play against your old school, John?
Yeah, it's strange. The strangest thing is playing there. You know what I mean? Because I'm coaching there. I played there, and just being in the away locker room when I always grew up in the home.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's just the I'd say strangest part. But you know, after the Hubbard game, we kind of got our rhythm there and got in the swing of things of the season. So we kind of found our identity after week 5.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As we mentioned, it started a mark of 4 consecutive victories. You beat Lakeview handily 41-6, and now you're starting to put up offensive numbers that are impressive, although you did, too, against Lakeside and West Branch earlier on while you were still trying to figure things out. Jefferson 56-6, Niles 42-14, impressive victory there. And perhaps the high water mark of the campaign was going into Girard at Arrowhead Stadium and beating the Indians 54-35, a team that had been to the state championship just a year prior.
Yeah, that was great for our kids, for the program. You know, we kind of figured out we're going to keep Aiden Hall at quarterback, who we have back this year, and he pretty much it was the Aiden Hall show, and he really opened some eyes that night. I think a lot of people left that game asking who's number one, because not a lot of people knew who he was until that game.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that was a great football team we played against. They had a couple key injuries during the game, and they adjusted to it. They put one of their athletes at quarterback and kind of did the same thing we did with Aiden, and they just let him run. So, you know, we had some trouble stopping him when they did that, but it was a great football game, and our kids, there was a lot of adversity in that game. And our kids were able to handle that well.
And then 2 tough losses. And I, you know, as a fan, and I was working with Poe last year, we were doing the scoreboard show at iHeart. You guys lose 2 heartbreaker. Back and forth with South Range, who advanced fairly deep into the postseason. 49-42 shootout. And then you play Poland on the road to the hilt and come up 2 points short, 14-12. But you find yourself getting and garnering enough computer points to go into the postseason and get a rematch with the Poland Bulldogs. And, you know, coming off of 2-game losing streak couldn't have been that depressing, because you took 2 teams, South Range and Poland, to the hilt and played them both so competitively. So you guys had to feel good entering the playoffs, although the result of that playoff game did not go in your favor.
Yeah, you know, the South Range game is one that a defensive coordinator usually isn't proud to talk about. But, you know, that was a great football team. And obviously they have a veteran staff over there. And that senior class was great. And I think they're going to, the next couple of years, they're still going to be fine. And, you know, Poland, we saw what they did last year when they made it to the playoffs, the run they made. And our kids take Poland a little differently than the other games. You know, our Struthers, we have a chip on our shoulder over there, and you know, we're a blue collar community, and our kids just week 10 that they let it all out there. You know, coaches always preach to their kids, leave it on the field. You know, this is week 10. We don't know if we're going to have a week 11, because our record may not get us into the playoffs, and the way our kids played that Friday night was inspiring. And they, although things didn't go our way week 11, our kids, I couldn't be more proud of them.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and you had to be proud of them. And some of the notable players that you have coming back off of the 6-5 ball club and a playoff contender from a year ago are who, Coach?
Well, Aiden Hall's coming back. He was our quarterback last year. He plays receiver and quarterback and corner. So he's just that multi-athlete. Wherever we need him, he's going to play. And we have a 3-year starter center, Zach Folletti. He's going to be our anchor up front for us, probably on offense and defensive line. He plays defensive end for us. But those are probably going to be our two standouts this coming year. And, you know, we had a lot of young guys playing here and there. We were able to get a freshman some reps last year, Chaz Akoniak. He's going to be a key receiver for us. And a young kid, Josh Marshall, who's also a receiver corner for us, who's going to have to play, another athlete's going to have to play positions that, you know, he may not have played before, because that's what we need. We're going to be a young squad next year.
You know, I gotta talk about this, Johnny, because I'm gonna try to assist you with this, because I have a little bit I got a little bit of background with this. You're also a very passionate singer-songwriter, and I went back and looked. You released an LP called Chaser. It was a 6-song album, which was released on iTunes and a variety of different websites. And you go to Nashville and you record, and when the finished product comes out and John Bayuk hears it for the first time, you were in awe, weren't you?
Yeah. So I can give you that story real quick.
I got to hear this.
I was sitting in the recording studio, and the music engineer called me back because they were ready to play me the final product. And I sat down in front of his computer, and he started playing it. And just how it all came together, I didn't even realize it was going to sound just the way they were able to capture how I wanted it to sound, because we did everything live. All the recordings were live. Everything we did was with the live 6-piece band and me singing, and it was just such a great experience for me. And when I first heard it, it was just, I got the chills. I mean, that's the jaw dropped. So.
Well, I got to tell you, I heard the acoustic version of Chase, and I was just like, wow, this kid's got talent. So it suffices the question, and I know you've been asked this before. If you had your choice, Johnny Bayuk, of being a professional singer or a football coach at a highest level, which would John Bayuk's heart find as the number one opportunity?
Well, you know, like I said, I've always been around football, and that has been my passion through life. And really, the reason I went to Nashville wasn't to be this star singer artist. I'm more focused on songwriting, and I wanted to get my songs that I have written that no one's ever heard before, and I just wanted people to hear them. You know what I mean? I'm not putting this music out to try and make millions and, you know, be some kind of artist that has stardom. I'm just trying to get some music out there. So I'd have to pick coaching, just because I could still do songwriting on the side, because it's, you know, it's not always about being famous. You know what I mean? And that's not what it was. That's not why I went there.
Are you going to record it? Are you going to record more, John?
I'd like to. Now that I'm a head coach, I don't know how much more time I'll have.
That's what I'm saying. Where are you going to find the time?
Yeah, but if I have the time, I'd definitely like to do that, because I'm still writing. I write all the time.
And this is an amazing story, and I found this. So you walk into the weight room, and the kids, your team, is playing your song, and they're singing along to your tunes. What did that feel like?
Yeah, you know, I'm a very private person when it comes to that kind of stuff, especially in school. And the kids know that, so they're trying to rip me. And they're playing and singing. And, you know, I try to keep things private, but I just smiled and laughed. I mean, I couldn't get mad at them for that. But it's funny to see kids nowadays who hate country music and things like that singing along with country music just because it's their football coach. So, no, it's a great experience for the kids to kind of joke around with me about it.
What do you think in 2020, Coach? How do you think your Wildcats going to shape up?
You know, it's with this tricky off season, you can't really make a prediction yet. But before all this happened, like I told you, we were having great numbers in the weight room, and we have a really young team coming back. And although they're young, they're very passionate. They're very passionate in the weight room. when it's raining and it's cold outside, they say, "Coach, can we go out and throw around?" Like they're just ready to get after
Oh,
it.
yeah, they're antsy.
And yeah, and I think that's gonna resonate to our season. You know, even though we're gonna be young, we're gonna have a lot of young pups that haven't played under the lights before. But once they get that fix and they get that experience, I think it's going to be a fun season. I'm really excited.
And I'm excited for you. John, I can't wish you nothing but the best of success. I think you're going to be dynamic. I think having Dad alongside there is going to make it a really special first campaign as a head coach there. I know how close to the Struthers community is. And, brother, take the bull by the horns, practice what you preach and just take over that Struthers program, put your own flavor on it, and go out there and just win, baby.
I appreciate it, man. I will do that.
Absolutely. Great guy. That is John Bayuk, the first-year head coach with the Struthers Wildcats program, and I'm just fired up for the guy. I mean, finally gets an opportunity. He said he wanted to be a coach from the time he was a little boy, under the wings of his father, Jeff, who, by the way, we are going to talk to coming up in the second segment of the first hour here on YSN's Breaking Batch, presented proudly by our friends at Greenwood Chevrolet.